Hi, hello, welcome. So it's an OJL today. That's Oracle Juice Live. That means that I am consuming alcohol. If this ain't, I'm doing a self read today, so it doesn't like I'm reading myself, right? So I'm like, anyway, that is just the general disclaimer. I know it's not for everybody. I know I have a blue and white cup in my hand. This video ain't sponsored. The channel isn't monetized to get demonetized. Anyway, I'm doing a self read today. Excuse me, and I'm doing HFYTFN rules. Also, we're doing the new trickster rules because I'm feeling it. Is this a good idea? Hey Google, flip a coin, please. No, wow, this is not a good idea. I know I was gonna do this, but then I was like, I'm feeling a little tired, but I already have the alcohol, so. And Google said tails. I'm like, okay, girl. Well, we'll see why. We'll see what's up. I guess I could always make this private. Because again, this is a self read. I feel like I've been doing the comic. Interesting. That may be the closest thing we have to add on for the folks who like the chat, but I haven't really been paying attention to it. I guess I don't want to go live and not and with the chat off. But yeah, like I said, it's a self read, so we're just gonna dive in today. Patrick, what's wrong? Don't you know what's right? I don't know. It's a little warm. I'm a little tired. I feel like something is stirring and moving lately. I've been doing, I don't know if it's the whiskers. If when I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, my trickster whiskers are back. But it's kind of been coming up a lot lately. So I don't know. And then I'm like, is the mask slipping? Maybe my mask is slipping. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm starting with the Wada known alchemy and archetypes because I love them, apparently. Excuse me. And I'm going to look before and after the mask. So the trickster rules are for the card before, I'm going to look after the significator. For the card after, I'm going to look before the significator. Um, and that's why I have these paired together. So I'm going to get an alchemy from before and after. And then if I dig deeper, I'll try to pick a deck that feels resonant. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do today. For some reason, I've used it recently. Maybe I should just go for it. Usually, when I get a feeling to use a certain deck, I end up using it. And I'm like, I should have just pulled it when I had the thought. But yeah, it's so interesting. So I have a few decks. I don't know. I did an offline self read. I pulled a card from a particular deck that I have the other day. And it was so interesting, the card that came out, because I feel like it validates where I am. And it's interesting because I feel like I've been teetering this line for a little bit now. And I guess in general, there are things that I can do, but that I don't necessarily enjoy. And there are certain roles that I'd prefer not to play, but I will if the situation demands it. And I think I was talking the other day about when I was like, where's Hemi? Where is Hemi? Because there are like reads that she did for me years ago. And I feel like I've just hit the point. And by just hit the point, I've been like reaching this point where it's like, okay, like, I guess I'm going to have to do the thing that I don't necessarily want to do. But also at the same time, I know what I want. I know what I want from this era of my life. I know what I've been manifesting, you could say, or speaking for myself, and I know what I've been feeling for myself. And it's one of those like oh my gosh, I didn't know it'd be this hard types of situations. Kind of, not really. But yeah, it's just interesting to me how full circle, I guess, some of the things have come. And then I saw a video last night or this morning of like just the craziest almost validation. Like there are sign symbols, synchronicities that I've been seeing for years now. Ones that when they first sort of cropped up in my life, I was like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I'm doing my muggle thing right now. Right now, I'm in my 9 to 5 grind. Okay. But it's interesting how I have, because of life and because of who I am, it's interesting, like this points that I've reached. And then, like last night, I just had like this confirmation validation of like so many things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know. And on some point, like consciously, I didn't even know. On some point, I kind of did. Because again, the symbols and synchronicities were cropping up and I didn't look into them. So I didn't know how much they aligned. That's just the whole, there's a lot of interesting whatever. The siren. Oh my gosh, how perfect at the bottom of the deck. Things that I was like naturally drawn to. And then like years later, I find out why. And in some of the most bizarre ways, like there's something that I found out, we'll say in 2000 and maybe like 17, 18, 2016, 17, 18, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm not going to do anything with it. Then cut to January of 2024, Feb 2024. And I'm like, okay. And then later, I'm like, oh, so like this thing from 2016, 17, 18, like, oh my gosh, it makes sense. And then cut to last night where I'm like, oh my gosh. Cool. So I'm going to look before and after the mask. I don't know. I just, there are two fish in the sign of Pisces. I'm looking before and after the mask. I'm going to correlate the numbers to the alchemy. For the card before, I'll look after the number. For the card after, I'll look before the number. We'll see what we get. I have the Quantum Tarot. I don't know why. As I was talking about, like, I don't know what deck I'm going to go for. Well, maybe that's why. I'm going to pull one of these. I'm going to average the two numbers, and I'm going to shuffle this, and I'm going to pull that number from the top and from the bottom. I'm going to pull that number from the top and from the bottom. and then we'll see what's up. And maybe that'll be it. Maybe we'll go from there. I don't know. This is a self-read, OJL. And we'll just see what's up. What is this for? Is this for confirmation? Is this for valid? Honestly, because I feel myself like shifting. And I think a good thing about the community, quote unquote, is that it's a good and a bad thing. I think it is what it is. I meant to grab my iPad to see where the sun is because my Chiron is in Leo. I'm like, is this a Chiron or is this a sun on my Chiron? I was so interested because Mars was transiting Leo before it retrograded into Cancer and then went direct again. And so I was like, oh, when Mars is on my Chiron, like, I wonder what's going to happen. And then it was like, when the sun is on my Chiron, when Mercury's on my Chiron, when Leo's on my Chiron. One of the reasons why is because I feel like certain shifts and changes within myself. And so I don't necessarily feel like I owe it to anybody, but I feel like there's a certain level of transparency that I should have because I may not resonate with folks, and I'd rather people find the people that resonate with them. You know what I mean? But that's when I was going to say one of the good things I like about the community is that people kind of sort of, whether it's resonance or life or anything else, you know, people come and go, like with a lot of things, honestly. Right. And I'm sure it is challenging for a lot of creatives. I saw an Instagram reel yesterday where somebody was like, I have the talent. I have like, when people see me, they tell me they love me, but like, where's the disconnect when it comes to like other stuff, other aspects of the business? Um, Life of availability of time, finance, like there's a whole bunch of reasons anyway. It just happens. But now that the sun is 25 degrees Leo, I guess I should have known that, right? We're already like almost to Virgo season. It's been on my Chiron. But that may be when it started, where it feels like I feel like I kind of hold myself back in a lot of ways, or I overthink a lot. And also, there are times to act, and there are times to strategize, there are times to plan, there are times to rest, there are times to think, there are times to do. And then there are times to do combinations of those things. And I feel like I've gone through periods of like reflection that leads to like a sort of clarity and then an action. And it's been this like repeated cycle, I guess, of reflection, clarity, action for a hot minute now, probably since the direct Mars touched on my Chiron. And maybe because I'm looking for it, honestly. Excuse me. Oh, Mercury is at 6 degrees. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I want to do this. Because I've never been one of those love and light girlies. Excuse me, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. It takes all kinds of people to make the world go round. It takes all kinds of, there are like all kinds of roles that tend to a smooth functioning of things. There are all kinds of perspectives that have their parts to play, but it's just like never been me. You know what I mean? And like I said, for the folks that need that, I hope you find it. But yeah, that's why I'm doing this. I don't know. I just feel like, especially lately, like it's time to begin acting or doing or moving. And I feel like a lot of the hesitation and the reservations that I've had are just like things have been the way that they've been for long enough. And it's time to, you know, kind of almost, if something was going to happen, it would have happened by now. Almost, but not necessarily quite. One of the alchemy cards did come out face down. Oh, look, it's the Raven's head. Cool. Raven's head is like, it doesn't care, ready or not, here it comes. So, what I'm actually going to do, that is number 46, XL40 VII 747. Sorry. Number 47. I'm going to pull the 47th card. And I guess I'll still do the average. Oh, that almost jumped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Two of Swords, if it isn't the Minor High Priestess. This Two of Swords is so interesting because the Two of Swords is the Blind Seer in the SKT. And if you know why that's interesting, and I feel like nobody does, not yet at least. Maybe someone does, I don't know. Oh. Here's the card. The Two of Swords came out. Now, in this card, the swords are the like embossed things. Everything else is flat. The Two of Swords for me is Minor High Priestess. Is there anything more to say? What's at the bottom of the deck? We have the Emperor and the Eight of Wands. And the Tower. The Tower is under the Emperor. I guess that way. The Tower, the Emperor, and the Eight of Wands. The Tower and the Chariot are my two birth cards. I almost did like a pull before and after, like cards like that. Was that yesterday? I don't know. I've been, like I said, excuse me. I've kind of been wanting to do something like this for a hot minute. Because I don't know. I like for people to know who they're watching. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to me, I guess. The Two of Swords is a card of stalemates. I honestly rarely read it that way. But it is a card of stalemates. And with the Eight of Wands, that is backed by the Tower and the Emperor. It's like a decision being made. The stalemate is broken. Impasse. Okay. One more shuffle and a cut. I'm looking from the bottom to the top, before and after the mask. We have the Warrior, the ocean, kind of in reverse, and the fault line. The warrior, the ocean, and the fault line with the king under the fault line. And my name is Patrick. You know what I mean? My first and middle name are actually like kind of interesting. It's an interesting combination. Patrick app. There's a Patrick app. Patrick name meaning. The name Patrick of Latin origin generally means nobleman or of noble birth, derived from the Roman term patricius. It signifies a connection to the patrician class of ancient Rome, emphasizing a sense of nobility and high social standing. The name is also strongly associated with St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, further solidifying its connection to Irish heritage. And then we'll do Anthony name meaning. So we have nobleman or of noble birth. What? That's not a name. The name Anthony of Latin origin is generally interpreted to mean priceless one or highly praiseworthy. Though its exact etymology is debated, it originated as a Roman family name, Antonius, and is particularly known for its association with Mark Antony, a prominent Roman politician. So a highly praiseworthy or priceless noble one. And then the king is here. Let me toot my own horn a little bit. It's the alcohol. Blame it on the alcohol. I should have brought water. Honestly, it's already gone. The warrior, the ocean, and the fault line. I remember when I was using the Yggdrasil Norse divination cards, there was Ron at the bottom of the ocean. And there were like underwater volcanic vents, and she was like poking them. I don't remember why. Cool. We'll set these aside for now. 10, 35, and 49. The 49ers. Cool. I saw a video yesterday, which is why like 49ers. LOL. There's oh. So the king, the starborn, gnosis. Hi. So apparently I lost connection. Apparently. And I was just gonna let it go. I'm gonna do this for as long as I can. I'm gonna finish this. And what makes it up makes it up. What doesn't doesn't. It's interesting. Alethea and the orphan is at the cut where I stopped. Because again, ultimately, since this is a self-read, like even if it wasn't though, like whatever doesn't make it doesn't make it. It's interesting that there's lately the thing came up of like there are certain things that it's just not the time to reveal for whatever reason. Because was that earlier in the year? I think it was at the top of the year. Or at the tail end of last year, where some stuff came out and the signal messed up and it just got cut. Like when I saw the notification that there was trouble with the stream, I was like 40 minutes into the video. It only uploaded like 20 minutes. And I was like, where it stopped was interesting. And I'm just like, hey, if it wasn't meant to be said or heard or whatever, then who am I? You know? Anyway, this is how close we are to the top. This is all the cards that we went through. I love that because I'm pulling from the bottom. So the closer to the top, the closer to the conscious, the closer to the bottom, the closer to the subconscious, or the underlying, or The hidden. Okay, I'm still not seeing this card. I'm like, this is the right deck, isn't it? Hello? The unseen, number 27. The mask. And the sword. It's so interesting. The sword is number 62. It's interesting that the sword is there. After the sword is the self. Before the unseen is the lover. And before the lover is agape. So agape, the lover, the unseen, and then the sword, the self, and the threshold. The sword is actually a card that I was going to go looking for because of self reads that I've done. The sword has a significance, as does the warrior. So it's when the warrior came out first, I shouldn't have been surprised. The warrior was one of the bottom three. And then there's the warrior's weapon. Cool. But this is like, even when it came out, again, it's sort of in that class of like things that I could do, but that I didn't necessarily want to for a while. Also, it fits into that whole, it feels like it's a time for action now. So, this is almost a play on the Raven's head and the Two of Swords. Almost. The mask is number 61. Oh, 61, 62. 27, 61, 62. Cool. So I'm going to do before and after, but I'm only going to look at the card. The unseen was before. The sword was after. Yeah, I don't want to confuse myself. Before the card, after. Cool. So technically it's after 27 and before 62, but I'm going to pull both. I'll give it one more. No, as the deck is. From the bottom, the bottom card is Saturn. Because what other card would it be? Like, I don't have my Saturn tapestry up anymore. I still have the tapestry. I just don't have a place to put it up anymore. But I feel like that surprises no one. Saturn against nature and separation. Oof. I am so. I want to do it this way. Separation and the blade or the sword. Interesting, because that's what the sword does. It cleaves, it cuts, it separates. Also, the fault line is here. Also, this color palette between the mask and the sword is interesting. Excuse me. See? And the unseen and the mask. What have we haven't seen? What haven't we seen? Patrick. There's a lot of stuff that goes on up here. Unus Mundus, Synchronicity, and Cauda Pavonis. The Peacock's Tail, followed by Oil of Vitriol. I'm looking at numbers. Okay. 62 and 27. This is 63. Okay. All right. I forgot. 35 is here. Oil of Vitriol in the ocean. Oil rises. It has a different density than water also. 27 is antimony. So this is a card before. Technically, I will look after. After antimony is sublimation. Before antimony that I'm not really looking at is summer. But I'll pull it just for the fun of it, I guess. Next is 62. Excuse me. 62 is LXII. Lexi. If it don't start with an L, it ain't it. 61. $54, $59. LXII, 62 is the androgen. Before the androgen is iron, which we've seen maybe quite a bit lately, honestly. Since this is the card after, I am looking for the card before. The androgen, and then after the androgen is Massa Confusa, 51. I'm not really looking at it, but I'll pull it for the fun of it. After Chaos, Massa Confusa, excuse me, is the Sun Splendor. Splendor Solace. I've been yawning ever since I was like an hour into my treadmill workout today. Interesting. Cool. So that's what we got. We have sublimation with the unseen and iron with the sword. Iron could be the material that the sword is made from. Also, note the theme of lightning that is present in both. Interesting. So in iron, it's the metal and then all the colors outside, rather than it being this left right sort of separation. Without all that color, maybe that's the difference. Without the color, it looks like this chaos. Also, I don't want to say I thrive on chaos because that's not true. But I will say that there have been certain situations where it's almost like, to me, I don't know how to describe it. I don't thrive on it. It's definitely situational. And it's in situations where it's like low stakes or like it doesn't really matter. But if things are like disorganized in a way that's like annoying and minorly frustrating, it's just like, to me, it's like, okay, well, like, let's just do what we need to do and not make a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be made out of, right? Let's just handle it. Like, we could sit around and do whatever, or we could just take care of it. Now, there are definitely situations that are chaotic where it's like, let's handle this because this is unacceptable. So it's definitely a spectrum. Anyway, sublimation is interesting for the unseen because sublimation is the process of something going from a solid to a gas. So, in a way, it's going from dense, tangible, seen to vapor, ethereal, unseen. It's interesting though, because on the other side of sublimation is iron. And iron is very much so tangible, dense, metallic. It's like the opposite of that vapor. Oh my gosh, this may this may be reading more of me than I thought. there's like, let's get into the psychology of Patrick. Yeah, because like the part of me, again, I wouldn't say I thrive in chaos because that isn't accurate of who I am. But there are definitely times where I'm like we're making a bigger deal out of this than needs to be made out of. Like, what are we doing? Like, kind of like that. Kind of like this is ridiculous. What are we doing? Like, let's just step up and do whatever. Or like, you know, if ultimately at the end of the day what needs to be done is going to be done, has to be done, and we're going to be the ones to do it, let's just do it. We can cut all of the whatever out of it and just get it done. But I think too, for me, the line is definite. And maybe to others, I feel like if someone were to perceive me and to not know where those lines and boundaries are for me, I've gotten a lot better than I used to be. Um, but it's like once that boundary is crossed, it's like all of a sudden, what is this like nebulous, whatever, kind of like, oh, like he's chill, he's happy go lucky, becomes extremely like that's when I go from like the silly happy Jupiterian fish to the like the Taurus moon, Taurus rising. That's when the horns of the bull come out. So yeah, that's interesting. And again, like that's kind of sort of where I am though. Like for the past little bit, it's kind of been like it's one thing if in that chaos things get done or what needs to happen happens. It's another thing like if I in whatever the situation is, if I like have to be the one to step up and take care of it, especially if it's like a role that I don't necessarily want to do and not for any other reason that like by the time I'm stepping up, like something is gonna get done, you know? Or again, it's just like a boundary of like, okay, if I have very little interest in telling people what to do, who to be, how to be, whatever. And I have just as much interest in like tolerating what is to me intolerable. So that usually ends up being it's the that other side of Pisces that people on the internet talk about, where it's just like this fish has swam away and you and all of the ocean and all of the seas you can search for lifetimes and you will never find that fish again. And even if you catch it, it won't be the same fish, you know. But then anyway, it depends on how severe that boundary crossing is. um Interesting. I feel like we're going a very like PG route. PG meaning just like not deep, which I'm totally okay with. Especially since I was told that this is not a good thing. Well, told because the Google flipped the coin for don't do it, Patrick. I was like, I'm gonna do it anyway. What I also like about dissolution, I was gonna talk to Rob this may be a complete aside. I was gonna be like, is this like an ADHD like symptom or something? Um, like sometimes my ears don't work. Like it's like I'll be listening to something and it could be within the same conversation. Excuse me. But if like someone says something that like causes me to think and I'm like engaging that thought, but they keep talking, it's like I'm thinking about the thing now. Or I don't know, sometimes I feel like it just happens and I'm just like I caught most of that. It's like I caught a few words. I kind of zoned out a little bit. But like I got tested and the is it what the DSM or the whatever diagnostic manual? Yeah, maybe. I didn't score enough points to even be ADD, so I just got diagnosed with major depressive disorder. And then I started to look at all of the things that I had been avoiding, and things changed for me, for more. It's not necessarily the same for everyone. Okay, cool. Wow. Saturn against nature and separation. Oh, the fault line and that separation is interesting too. Cool. Where do I go from here? Is there anywhere to go from here? Iron is 22. 62, 22, a difference of 40. 40 is death. 27 and 67, which is also a difference of 40. 22, 62. 27, 67. I didn't even catch that. LX 60 VII. Yeah. There's a difference of 40 on both between the unseen 22 and sublimation. Or unseen 27 and sublimation 67, there's a difference of 40. And then between the 62 of the sword and the 22 of iron, there's a difference of 40. There's this double death energy. Excuse me. I feel like I didn't necessarily think this through enough. But that gives me a card to look before and after. I can look before and after death. I'll do the SKT Vitruvian for the unseen and dissolution because it's what I could do the Osho Zen Tarot, but it's my most like ethereal. For the sword, because the Archangel Commander came out recently, and because it's like this, it's the severity. I'll go for the Notoria. I mean, I guess I could pull before and after the Archangel Commander. The Unseen is also interesting because the Two of Swords is here. The Two of Swords that is the Blind Seer that showed up recently. Is that what I'm going to do? The SKT Vitruvian for the Unseen. Actually, this may have moved. This deck has moved from drawer to drawer to drawer. Rolling, rolling. Okay. Yeah, there's another card. And I guess that's it. Wow. I'm gonna have to do this offline for the real deep insights. Actually, so in that reading, it was a self-read I did a while ago where the sword came out and the warrior came out. This actually does fit in with that. Ooh, somebody just did a dirty flip. All right, we'll do two more and the cut. Looking before and after death. Bottom of the deck is the Six of Wands, the Two of Swords, and the Hierophant. So flanking the Two of Swords, the Six of Wands, and the Hierophant. Interesting that the Two of Swords is here again. 14, 19, 5. 14 plus 5 is 19. No, I'm like, let me look at the cards. Sure. The moon. Let's just get right to it. Let's get down to business. XIII is 13. Before 13 is the Five of Swords. AIL. AIL. After 13 is the Four of Cups. Mihail. Cool. After that is the Tower, which is again one of my birth cards. Before that is the Chariot. The Chariot is before the Five of Swords. The Tower is after the Four of Cups. These are my birth cards, the Tower and the Chariot. Interesting. Okay. So, confirmation that this was indeed the move. Oops. This Five of Swords has an almost temperance energy to it. Because of the cauldron and the alchemy that's being done. It's like it's creating a sun, which is interesting. The Four of Swords. I'm like trying to make it out. Oh, okay. Oh, it's a one-winged angel. One of the wings got like ripped off or cut. Let's start. Four cups, five swords. The one-winged angel is that Sephiroth from Final Fantasy 7. It has to be 7. Final Fantasy 7 is the most famous Final Fantasy. Sephiroth is the most famous Final Fantasy antagonist. Cloud is the most famous protagonist. I feel like Tifa maybe more famous, but Cloud is like the poster boy. Interesting. Wasn't that the Six of Wands? Yeah, the Six of Wands was the card at the bottom. Six Wands, Five Swords, Four Cups. That's either three Pentacles or seven Pentacles to complete the series. Interesting. Am I going to read these now? Sure, why not? Angel number 67, which is another 13, and angel number 67, AIL or IIL. God who pleases all. The Five of Swords is the God who pleases all. Interesting. When fluid and uneven forces, such as emotional or creative ones, are at play, this angel will rationally and methodically transform them into a third force. As fire brings a cauldron full of water to a boil, converting it into a vapor that will rise to higher levels. Ayel will direct this ascent by favoring those changes that frighten us but are necessary, encouraging us to retain the higher characteristics belonging to our personality. Even those blocked by mistakes, prejudices, doctrines, or the inability to express our feelings to loved ones. Interesting. It's in the course of angels. Jupiter and Pisces are the planet and sign. And of course, the tarot and esoterica are the Five of Swords. Interesting. It's interesting because the boiling water, converting it into a vapor, and converting it into a vapor that will rise to higher levels. I'm watching this anime because, of course, I am. Like, literally before I went live, I just watched episode 2 of like Trapped in Another World with a smartphone or something like that. I saw a clip on YouTube and I was like, oh, I've been not watching it. I'll give it a watch. In that show, there's personal magic that's non elemental called null magic. Well, there's null magic that's non elemental that's typically personal magic because only one person can use that or very few people. And there was a null magic spell to make steam rise like directly upward. And it's interesting because again, it was like in the list of useless spells. He was like, "Oh, I could use this null magic for like a good omen for people who watch Steam. If you can make Steam rise like directly, which is also um, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's been coming out, and smoke as the conduit for our hopes, prayers, uh, desires, dreams, wishes, whatever, to the divine. As the smoke rises, it carries those. Interesting. Number 48. We'll put it together at some point, maybe. 48. Mihail, the Merciful God. So we have the Merciful God and the God who pleases all. Let's see. Mihail maintains harmony and connection between an active and a receptive component. Thus, it promotes union, attraction, compassion, and feelings of reconciliation and concord. If this energy decays and degenerates, its influence could cause discord, restlessness, jealousy, or in the worst case, stagnate in a total lack of stimulation, boredom, and a melancholic, sterile refuge in the past. This is in the course of virtue associated with the Four Cups, of course, and also the moon in Scorpio. So we have moon And Moon in Scorpio trine Jupiter in Pisces. Moon in Scorpio was interesting because we have the unseen on the other side. Maintains harmony and connection between an active and a receptive component. Active, receptive, masculine, feminine, light, dark. Thus, it promotes union, attraction, compassion, and feelings of reconciliation and concord. On the other side of that, again, when fluid and uneven forces, such as emotional or creative ones, are at play, this angel will rationally and methodically transform them into a third force. As fire brings a cauldron full of water to a boil, converting it into a vapor that will rise to higher levels. AIL will direct this ascent by favoring those changes that frighten us but are necessary, encouraging us to retain the higher characteristics belonging to our personality. Yeah, I feel like also too again, like I'm just this is so funny. For the past little bit, actually, I had so many opportunities for like reflection and like I was saying, it'll be like a clarity act reflect or reflect clarity action reflect clarity action. um Before it was as much of an active component, when it was a lot more, I mean, I guess it's always been action. That pattern has been going on for a while, and I got so much clarity earlier in the year that sometimes I felt like simultaneously broken and fixed. Like just with the realizations that I had, because there are ways that I am because I am who I am. And I don't, as much as I love to self reflect and retrospect and think and take personality quizzes and you know, like tell me about me. As much as I love to do that, I also just am who and how I am. And I feel like there were things that I wouldn't necessarily say are important to me, but I act like they are. And I didn't realize this until like literally months ago, earlier in the year. Because again, it was just things that, like, I know that there are people who think and believe in certain ways that I didn't necessarily count myself. I'm like off center. That I wouldn't, like, I wouldn't identify with the statement, but when I look at my actions, and I look at the actions that are motivated by feelings, and I look at the actions that are motivated by feelings that are predicated upon personal truths, then I'm like, whoa. So, like, those statements that I wouldn't necessarily identify with deeply resonate to these personal truths that I have and have always had, that I didn't know to give words or a voice to. And because of that, and it's almost like because I know now, because I consciously know now, I feel like I have to honor those personal truths. Because before, it's like, again, with this whole like tolerance and boundaries and pressing boundaries, before it was like I would play with my own boundaries until I was like, oh, this is a boundary for me. And then it's like, come on, Patrick, what are you doing? But again, like I feel like on a conscious level, I knew there were things that I knew because of how I felt. But I guess I just never took that extra step in like I don't know. It goes beyond like, why do I feel this way? Because I feel like I could list the reasons why I felt the way that I feel. I just didn't. It's like I connected the dots, but I didn't see the bigger picture. And once I've seen the bigger picture, it's like now it's all I can see. So that's why I feel like at times I felt fixed because I can see it now and because I know why I am the way I am. But also I felt kind of broken because it's like, at least in the past, I could like play with my own boundaries. You know what I mean? And now it's like I can't even entertain this. And that applies in so many different like areas and aspects of my life in ways that I'm both comfortable with and not, because like, for example, like the sword is something that I've always had, but that I don't necessarily like to use, right? I'm much more like kind of sort of like go with the flow and let things play out and whatever. Cool. The other side maintains harmony and connection between an active and receptive components. Cool. All right. Again, this isn't necessarily where I thought this would go, but I kind of love it. I love it for like this posted publicly for anybody to see. Kind of formative. Maybe that's why the video, like, I was like, girl, you're doing a little too much. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. All right, now I'm going to look before and after the Reaper over here. Just, oh, I saw the Initiate with a bunch of cards. It was a dirty flip. I'll flip it back over. All right, one more, and then I'll cut. Ooh, ooh, okay. And then a cut there. We're looking for a 13 Reaper. Bottom of the bottom of the deck is the Blind Seer. Two of Swords, the one I've been talking about, the Blind Seer, the Blind Seer, the Blind Seer. Two of Swords, Two of Swords, Two of Swords. Interesting. The Blind Seer, the Archangel Commander, and the Giver. Literally. Okay, sorry. Don't mind me. And the Archangel Commander, literally, with the sword being here. Come on. Literally just talking about the Archangel Commander. So for it to be at the bottom of the deck, right next to the Two of Swords, the Blind Seer. And after that is the Giver, which is the Moon in Taurus, which is where my moon is. My little Taurus moon. It is. Oh, Moon in Taurus after the Archangel Commander is interesting because my moon is within like a degree and a half orb of Algol. So, which is the head of Medusa. Um, I feel like for the folks who have met the other fish, the fish with the horns of a bull, or for people who have seen it, it's like not surprising. Every now and then, I don't know, something will happen, and my journey buddy will be like, "Ooh," she'd be like, "This Taurus energy on you." But again, like, I don't know. I'd much rather be pleasant, but I'd much rather be pleasant. And I am largely conflict avoidant. But if push comes to shove, like I'd prefer to de-escalate, but I'm definitely for sure 100% not gonna have any qualms or issues. Like whatever, you know what I mean? And there's a part of me that sometimes likes being angry. I don't get angry and upset about much, and for a lot of things, there are so many reasons to not be. Like if something is unintentional, or if something isn't that big of a deal, or if something is like ultimately unimportant or like doesn't really matter, if it's not like a core boundary or even like a semi solid boundary, then it's like it's not necessarily worth the attention that I'd have to give to something, right? Because I'd much rather be like pleasant. But every now and then something will happen and I'll be like, you know what? I'm not that kind of person. If it's earned, if it's deserved, it is freely given. The Shining Winds, the Necromancer, the Hollow Void, the Ebony Shield, the Erudite, the Corruptor, the Tower, the Eminence, Sacred Fire, the Convalescent, the Shining Quarry, Archangel of Glory, the Grotesque, the Warrior, the Dynasty, the Destroyer, the Hector, the Vagabond, the Defector, the Seeker, the Joyous One, Sacred Cinnabar, the Priestess, the Lovers, the Conservator, Archangel of Healing, the Scarlet Shield, the Reaper, and the Mason. The Scarlet Shield, the Reaper, and the Mason. Interesting that we have the Three of Pentacles because that was the missing card. So before the Scarlet Shield is the Archangel of Healing. After the Mason is the Chancellor. King of Cups and Justice energies. Also, oh, I love this. Because we go from the Blind Seer with that Two of Swords energy to there being one sword. From two swords to one sword. Also, the Ankh behind the Chancellor with the Ankhs on those pillars. Interesting. Archangel Commander. Excuse me. And literally what I was just saying about that with the scales. Like if something is worth being angry or upset about, I will give it what it deserves, what it has earned, right? And so that's why I say like I'm not one of those like I don't know doormat loving light girlies. Not that all loving light girlies are doormats, but I think sometimes we can be so focused on like how do I say it? We can be so focused on like peace, harmony in the absence of conflict that we can tend towards like a complacency. And I'm much complacent about a lot of stuff in my life and in the world, I'm sure. But there are certain things that I like I have no interest. The interest that I had has long since been spent, honestly. So maybe the unseen with dissolution and the sword with iron, it's like excuse me. It's like time, and that's like I don't believe. More often than not, I don't believe in singular reasoning. So if I get to the point where, and maybe I have realized it's taken a while, but sometime within the past decade, I've realized that it's not necessarily fair to people to only voice my concern around a cross boundary when I feel like it's too late. Right. Because again, I'm not a person of singular reasoning. So usually, more often than not, 9,999,999 wait, 9,999,999 times out of 10 million. Like there are multiple things that have been done. There are like multiple reasons where I'm like, okay, you've crossed several boundaries. And be it whatever, it doesn't have to be a person, be it whatever. Like this has crossed several boundaries and I'm not interested. I'm not going to force any change on anything or anyone. I'm just not going to engage anymore. And like it's not necessarily fair to people when I don't voice those things who have a capacity to care and people who don't. Am I back or am I not, girl? They said, okay, reel it in. Where's my phone? I don't even know if I'm still live. I mean, ultimately by this point. Anyway, but it's like usually when it gets to that point, there have been multiple offenses, if that's how I want to say it. Hello, hello, hello. I'm trying to see if I'm live. I'm waving the book. I'm waving the book. Yep, I'm still live. Cool. Got it. Yeah. The Scarlet Shield, power and authority of air. The Mason. I'm going to read the Scarlet Shield first. Oh, these go backwards. Scarlet Shield is the space of the Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords and King of Swords are on the table. The Scarlet Shield and the Archangel Commander. Maybe the Two of Swords holds the sword of both, the sword of the Scarlet Shield and the sword of the Archangel Commander. Also, Queen of Swords is pre-Justice energy. Justice is the Chancellor, who is here at the bottom of the deck. Cool. The Scarlet Shield, power and authority of air. He, the Queen of Swords, is a shorn one, an Aztec warrior priest who shall be your formidable line of defense as you charge forth confidently to face your battles. His shield features an eagle devouring a serpent, a divine omen from the gods. When the Scarlet Shield appears to you, he is making his presence known so that you might go forth into combat, taking your stand with might and confidence, girl. When the Scarlet Shield appears, it is time for you to stand your ground, hold your position, and this warrior priest is here, ready to face the fight with you. A male ancestor or one from your paternal lineage can appear to you through the Scarlet Shield. 17 points tattooed on his dominant hand mark his great triumphs. Cool. The eagle that devours the serpent on the shield. Also, it's different but similar to, excuse me, Horus and Set. But instead of Set, it's Apep and Horus, maybe. But it's interesting though because the Isis Osiris Horus has been coming out quite a bit lately, honestly. Apep, the snake, and eagle. Apophis. In Egyptian mythology, Apep, also known as Apophis, is a serpent god of chaos who opposes Ra, the sun god, often depicted with an eagle head. So that's Ra and Apep. The eagle, a symbol of Ra, represents his power and association with the sun, contrasting with Apep's serpent form, symbolizing chaos and darkness. So it's interesting that the sun is being forged in this pot of boiling water. And the card that we're not looking at is chaos here. So here we also have an eagle snake symbolism in a way that I didn't know. What? Set battled with Ra. Apep's primary role is to disrupt the order of the world and devour the sun, while Ra, with the help of other deities like Set, battles Apep nightly to maintain cosmic order. So why did you turn on Osiris? Anyway, it's interesting because is it in 2027? I know I sent it to Rob. There was a comet or a meteor that's supposed to strike Earth, Apophis, in 2027, I think. Not found? What do you mean? I know I sent it to Rob. Meteor. Not found? I know I sent it to Rob. Why are y'all playing with me? 1 second. Let me check. I think it was a link I sent. Is it not here? 2022. No, it wasn't that far back. I know I sent it to Rob. I thought it was Rob. Was it Eve? I guess I'll just Google Apophis collision chance. A near Earth asteroid that once thought to have a small chance of impacting Earth. However, further observations and calculations have ruled out any impact for at least the next 100 years. And NASA is confident it will miss Earth. While it will have a close flyby in 2029, it will not pose a threat. So there you go. It went from being a potential threat to a non-threat. Cool. Maybe that's also part of the message. Sure, why not? On the other side, the Mason, the Three of Pentacles, Archangel of Mysteries, not you. The Hunt, the 9, Stronghold, Dark Horse is 7, 5. The Realm of Threes, the Realm of Fruition, the Mason, Mason City, Keokuk, Ames, Clear Lake. You really ought to give Iowa. Upon the first stare, ex nihilo nihil fit, the philosophy that every work is built or comes from a pre-existing work. The Mason is completion and inauguration with a materialized work product to show for yourself. It is the spirit of merit by your side, of hard work and dedication that pays off. This is the spirit of architecture, of construction and material works erected brick by brick, stone by stone. Labor or labor omnia vincit, hard work conquers all. Cool. Hard work conquers all. Love it. And then the Queen of Swords is like, do your thing. Why did I felt like there was a reason why I mentioned the thing I was just talking about a minute ago. I kind of got lost on a tangent. Cool. I feel like, again, this is like very surface level, which I'm totally okay with. Um, I didn't read these. The unseen. That difference of 40 on both sides is still so interesting to me. That's 27, so this is 67. LXVIII. Oh, too far. Sublimatio. I'll read that one second. First is 27. Ooh, I went too far. XXVIII. The unseen. The spirit, the ancestor, the eternal. It's interesting that this is the ancestor. Oh my gosh. This is the ancestor, and this is a paternal ancestor. And paternal ancestry is literally the exact thing I was talking about at the top of the video with the thing that I discovered or found out in like 2016, 17, 18. Events in 2024, things before 2024, honestly. Um, in some ways, kind of like what I was saying about how I was living certain truths without fully seeing or understanding the it's almost like if I were told, which is kind of sort of how it happened, honestly. Kind of sort of not really, but kind of. I feel like if something was ever elaborated to me, I would have been like, yeah, like that's totally me. But just like a simple statement, I didn't necessarily identify with. I didn't identify with the simple statement, but all of the underlying and whatever like was applicable. Anyway, interesting. Okay, all right, all right. The unseen is the spirit, the ancestor, the eternal. The unseen is just as it sounds. We cannot see it, yet it sees us, watching and waiting with wisdom, both kind and instructive. We feel this presence, sense it, intuit it, and then doubt its existence, though it rallies our attention time and time again. The energy of the unseen may come in many forms: a compelling dream, a sudden insight, a clear voice, a vision, or message from a loved one who has passed to the other side. It is natural to fear these communications as they challenge our perception of what is real. When this card appears, your guides are near. The eternal is present. The doorway between worlds is ajar. Listen. The sounds may seem as though they come from a distant land, but they call from your innermost chambers. Whoa, literally. It may seem it comes from a distant land, but it calls from the innermost chambers with the paternal ancestor. Girl, can't tell me nothing. You really can't. You can, but you can't, but you can. I feel like there are multiple people in my life who it's like if you would talk to one person, they would be like, you never listen to me. You always listen to this other person. And then if you were to talk to the other person, they would say literally the exact same thing. You never listen to me. You only listen to, and I only say that because there was I was scrolling reels on Instagram and there was a clip from Modern Family and I was like, wow, lol. It's kind of me, but it isn't because they would be like, you never listen to me, you never listen to me. Sublimatio, sublimation, elevation, rising, and flight. Elevation and rising of sublimation. Now, this did mention the rising of the water vapors, and I don't think I explicitly mentioned the time because this is evaporation. This is evaporation. This is sublimation. I mean, I guess either way, you're getting vapor. Sublimatio is the great alchemical operation of air, the great alchemical operation of air. And then we have, with this paternal ancestor, power and authority of air. Power and authority of air, the great alchemical operation of air. Cool. Love it. Love it. Sublimatio is a great alchemical operation of air. It occurs when there is enough heat to change a solid substance into a gas, causing it to rise up, and away. Therefore, when sublimatio is present, there is an aspect of celebrated elevation, of ascending above and gaining a greater perspective. Birds in flight, you can't even see the card. Birds in flight, mountain peaks, ladders, and balloons are all sublimatio images. As with all the operations, sublimatio has a shadow potential. Through ascension, there is a risk of separating from others, of sensing oneself higher or above. This risk is particularly great in spiritual traditions that offer a linear model of achievement. The divine alchemist rises humbly and supports the upliftment of others, always in touch with the cycle of humanity. Service is the natural balancing agent for sublimatio. It may be the next rung on your ladder. It's interesting. It says the shadow potential. Through ascension, there is a risk of separating from others, of sensing oneself higher or above. And the card of separation literally came out. Not only did the card of separation come out, but the fault line, which is a separation, also came out. What is this? 49 and 70. Um, I wouldn't. I am very much so. Maybe it's against. I'm very much so pro separation. Um, in terms of like an individualistic, like I choose choose not to believe. Yeah, I mean it's within. I feel like the very nature of who I am. I don't subscribe personally. For other people, sure. I don't subscribe to hive minds, greater collective, whatever. Um, I don't know. I also don't believe that we have to be the same for us to be worthy of basic human rights and decency. You know what I mean? To be worthy of compassion, I don't think somebody has to be just like me. If y'all have been here for a while, y'all know how I feel about it. I feel like one of the greatest detriments of what you could call collectivism is the first tool that people use. And it's that, like, we have more in common than we do differences. We're more alike than we are unlike. Because in my mind, it's like it doesn't combat the separation, it just further solidifies it. Because it's like, why would anybody have to be like us in order to be worthy or deserving of decency? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe if somebody were to say it to people, then maybe they would hear it. If someone's like, "Oh, you're just like me, so I'll treat you like whatever," maybe they won't. Actually, maybe they wouldn't. They probably wouldn't. They'd be like, "Yeah, we're like, I'm just like you." It's like, again, it's just like, why does somebody have to be like us? Why do you have to be like me? Or why do I have to be like you to um, it it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, obviously, I don't, whatever. Um, but I don't think that separation, for me, separation doesn't involve an inherent hierarchy. And even if there are roles and dynamics of engagement, it there's no inherent higher or lesser value given to one person or the other. Like in a student teacher dynamic, I will make myself, I don't know, that sounds, I have no qualms with making myself the student of anybody because I don't feel like being a student makes me any lesser than the teacher who's teaching me. I don't think that the teacher is any better than me because they're the teacher. They're just the teacher, right? Just like I don't think like service and wait staff are lower than me because I'm the person paying to eat at the restaurant and not the person working there. Right? Like I'm coming to the restaurant myself, you know. So I'm thankful to the cooks in the back and I'm thankful to the people who move the food. You know what I mean? Like that's why I'm going out to have this experience because I don't want to cook. So it's because of you. I don't have to. So thank you. You know what I mean? Like there are things that I could do that I don't want to do. And more often than that, that's one of the things that I don't want to do. Um and so when it comes to like that's why I say it's like I don't feel some type of way about putting myself on a pedestal and I don't feel some type of way about putting like other people on pedestals. Like there are people that I appreciate and admire for like things that they do really well or just for like who they are. But like me putting someone on a pedestal doesn't mean that that person is any greater than me. And me putting myself on a pedestal doesn't mean that I think I'm any better than anybody else. That's why to me, it's like it's our job to put ourselves on a pedestal. It is a function of self love, you could say. Some may not, but I'd say it's a function of self love for us to learn to put ourselves on our pedestals so that we can admire and appreciate and recognize others without some weird self whatever making it all wonky. And so that we can show up in roles and capacities of teachers, mentors, leaders, guides, whatever, and not have some kind of superiority complex. It's like literally, I came across this knowledge before you did. Maybe I'm older. Maybe I was hired to do this. Maybe I was interested or curious or fell in a TED Talk rabbit hole one day and just did a deep dive. And now I'm sharing what I know. It doesn't mean that I think I'm any better. But I know that for a lot of people, status is really important and it makes them feel better than other people. And in their minds, it does elevate them. I'm not one of those people. So I don't have to, for me, separation isn't the shadow of sublimation, right? Anyway. But again, I know that's not the truth for everybody. So this is 7. So the other ones was 62 and 22. I'm pretty sure. So this is 27. So in this book, it'll be 62. LXII. 62, the sword. Yep. And so that is 22 XXII over here. Funny how that worked out. Cool. Lead. The sword. Use your sword. The sword. This is the knife, the blade, the weapon. There we go. The knife, the blade, the weapon. To use the sword is to decide. The blade separates one reality from another. The choice is made and all else falls away. If you find the sword in your grasp, you can no longer hesitate. This weapon requires a clear and decisive mind and a willingness to act. An onlooker may think the sword bearer is hasty and violent, but the most compassionate and responsible gesture is one that is honest, swift, and accurate. Our first encounter with the sword is at birth, when the cord we share with the mother is cut. This moment defines our separation from her and begins our journey of becoming ourself. When must we make these cuts again? We must make these cuts again and again if we are to grow. Decisions shape our life, and the sword is an infamous shaper of destiny. An infamous shaper of destiny. Interesting. What a weird way to word that. Iron. Ferromagnetism, reliability, and Mars. Iron is a reliable metal that can withstand great pressure. Over the centuries, we have come to utilize this metal extensively, mixing it with carbon to create the steel bridges, highways, and infrastructures that span across the globe. In alchemy, iron is associated with the planet Mars and shares its qualities of being strong, assertive, and potentially warlike. When the iron card appears, there is a call to rely only on the reliable. What truly supports you? What have you already built? Iron dwells at the center of Earth, so when all else feels lost, go inward. There is a deep magnet there that pulls you toward what is steady and true. For the moment, put your words and weapons down and let yourself be held by the structure that is already in place. Cool. Too bad every other card says it is the time to act. I think that's honestly one of my biggest, as a Pisces, maybe not, as Patrick. Sometimes I see, sometimes I can see both sides of a situation, and I can be overly compassionate or overly considerate to the point of inaction or indecision with the Two of Swords, the impasse of what it typically means. Um, and I'll never forget, like, I went through the RA interview process in whatever year that was, 2016 maybe. Excuse me, or maybe it was 2015, I don't remember. Anyway, and there was one point where we had a group interview. And as a group, we had to rank priorities, right? So I said how I ranked priorities. Most of the group agreed. Somebody else ranked them in another order. And I was like, oh, like I didn't consider that. Like, like now that you say that, now that you're telling me like how you arrived to the conclusion that you arrived at, I see your logic. So yeah, like I think you've won me over. And then it was like, no, girl, like you should have stuck with what you originally had. What are you talking about? So after that moment, because that was a moment that like really sort of like highlighted it maybe for me of like being too, like it's okay for something to be what it is for somebody else. And I can understand that that's true for someone else. And I can hold that duality and dichotomy of like, okay, that's true for you, but it's not necessarily for me, and that's okay. For me, when it's not okay, it's like when boundaries start to get crossed, or when people generally blanketly accept things that actively work against them, or that just like isn't really resonant. And who am I to even think I know what is resonant for someone else, regardless of the space that we're communicating in? But the thing about resonance, the thing about true resonance is that it is so harmonious that even the smallest like ripple or wave or the slightest beat that's off, the slightest note that's not quite the right key, the slightest step that's out of line, because everything else is so perfect, it's like noticeable. To be human is to be full of contradiction. I've learned to accept that, especially as I embrace my own contradictions, right? I'm a paradox. I'm not going to force myself to be simple. I'm allowed to be complex. I'm allowed to be complicated. And also, I'm very simple. Um, and ultimately, at the end of the day, like, we're all responsible for our own alignment and attunement and intunement. And we should know best. So, you know, whatever. But yeah, and it's so funny, like when I don't even think it was this deck in particular. It wasn't this deck. I know what deck it was. Like when this came out years ago now, it was like it was that very thing. Like this whole unseen and the sword dynamic came out where it was like I'm observant and I'm not necessarily always forward presenting or like super active. I'm more introverted typically, unless you get me in the right situation with the right people. You know what I mean? Um, I just like, and if I don't like, if I'm in a discussion setting and I don't feel like I have anything of value to add, or if like my viewpoint has already been communicated, I don't have the need to be heard. So I'll just, I mean, I guess I could go, yeah, I agree with that person. Or like, I think blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I'm on the same page as whatever, right? Like, those are things that I could do. Now that I'm like saying this, I'm like, make sure that I do this so that I don't seem disengaged or whatever. But typically, it's like if it's already been said, I don't have the need to be heard. And so I just won't say anything. Um, and because I don't have like, I would much rather somebody be who they are. Even if I don't like how someone is, I would much rather them be that way and just like avoid them or cut them out of my life. Because, like, I'm not in the business of telling people who and how to be, right? Unless it causes harm to others, especially vulnerable peoples, then it's like you can keep doing whatever. There are people who are going to love you for you, and I'm just not one of them. There's plenty of people who aren't going to love me for me, and that's fine. Some of them, am I going to be hurt and upset sometimes? Yeah, because I'm sure there are going to be some people that I like that don't like me. But life goes on. You know what I mean? Um, but when it came out originally, it was very like, it's like I'll see things, I'll make my own intentions. I'm like very cerebral, but not as active. And when it came out, like, that was the whole thing. It's like yes, like I'm cerebral, I'm observant, I'm decent at it, good enough. But where I'm lacking is action. Where I'm lacking is follow through. It's been that way for a while, okay? And this is the year of action. It's literally part of my word for this year. And somehow I still thought I might get off easy. um, and now I think that's the slipping of the mask and like this trickstery energy that I'm feeling, where it's like the time for just observing is over. The time for action is now. The time for doing is now. And while I'm usually super flexible and like considerate of others to the point of self detriment a lot of times, like that season is over for me, at least for now. Like there are things that I need to do in my life, and I've been saying it for years now. And there have been times, there have been moments where I have, but now it's like it's time to really do it. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised that these cards came out. It isn't necessarily what I was, whatever. It is what it is. But, excuse me. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I feel like there's nothing like groundbreaking. The mask slips and you see the person that I've told you I am all along. But now, like, maybe you'll actually see me doing stuff. I mean, you may not see me actually doing stuff. Maybe I've gone through various phases and iterations of me, various phases of my journey, various iterations of me over the course of me having this channel. So maybe I will, when things start like really moving, maybe I will be mindful to at least give like life updates or whatever, rather than to just like drop everything and go on with my life. Because earlier it was very important to me that I showed up as authentically as I could and in like every part of my journey. So I've been on here crying, I've been on here mad, I've been on here North Node Sagittarius, I've been on here like happy, I've been on here winning, I've been on here losing. You know, I've been, and maybe just to like also show that rather than be like, okay, bye. Because that like my default tendency, default inclination is to be like, okay, bye, see ya. Like I'm off to live my life. Um, and yeah, and I'm really glad that I did show up all those years ago because it it makes it easier for me to show up how I am and not feel so bad about it. Like I think sometimes when life is good, I feel there have been times, I'll say, there have been times where life has been like good and things have been, I mean, things have been working out for a while. You know, thank goodness, because it's real. I've been very well taken care of over the past lifetime, but especially this past year and yeah, this past year and some change, as the uncertainty has been real uncertain and as life has been way tumultuous, but as it's like it's because that storm happened, it's because that tower fell that I had this space to explore all of the things that I've been exploring. And I guess if I think about it in that way, it's been a redux or a part two of 2019, where it was like, you know, my life kind of sort of on the surface, high key fell apart and is falling apart. But because my life fell apart, it's giving me the space to process all of the things that I've been needing to process, but I've been too busy to give the time, energy, and effort that they require. Um, and so, again, this year it happened much of the same. Um, actually, because that was like October, November of 18 into 2019, just like it was October, November of 2014 or 2024 into 2025. Um, so yeah. And just like it was time to sort through things and then to burst through the chrysalis relatively. I mean, yeah, right. I emerged from the chrysalis and then I learned how to fly. Now it's the next whatever. But again, in general, there's been like so much indecisiveness and over consideration and overthinking and not enough action, and the time for doing is now. So cool. Again, nothing that is surprising. I don't know what I was expecting. Um, you know what I mean? I was like, "Ooh, sis, let's spill the tea on me," and it's like, what's a basic tea? It's just like Lipton green tea in a bag, not even loose leaf. I don't know. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, whatever. But also, too, it is like the little winks, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the little things. Because I was literally, when I was going to sleep last night, it was one of the last things I came across. And I was like, how interesting is this? That, like, again, it's another way that has played out of like, these are ways that I like naturally am, or these are conclusions that I've naturally reached. And they're like so symbolic and reflective of this thing that emerged some time ago that I didn't give the time, space, energy, or effort to like actually look through for whatever reason. But only to find out that it's all like it all makes sense. Like I've been on this journey. Um, and the things that I felt connected to before there was any logical connector. Now the logical connector is out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no reason why, like, duh. I just like I don't know, it makes so much sense. Now the cool thing is, what are you gonna do about it, Patrick? Oof. Because again, it's not that I'm not about that action, because at the end of the day, I really am. As much as like when things are Gucci, when things are good, as much as I'm not, and I don't care to be, at the end of the day, I really am. I'm a mutable sign, and I embrace that, just like I embrace separation. But again, for me, I believe in separation that isn't tainted by all of the hierarchy that we put on it. Maybe too. That's why, because like to me, in certain instances, because I don't put tiers and hierarchies on like separation and certain labels and stuff, it's like for me, because I don't put myself in a certain category, or because I don't view myself in a certain type of way in a set dynamic, it's like weird to me when someone like presents as if they view me in a certain type of way according to that dynamic. But to most people, I feel like most people sort of put those hierarchies on dynamic. So for most people, it probably makes sense. But to me, I'm just like, ew, this is weird. Like, what is going on? Just because I'm in this position doesn't mean whatever. Like, I don't know. It's always, but that's been my whole life. Like, there have been people who'll be like, oh, like, I'm not as smart as you, but like, this is what I think. Or like, at Purdue, for real, like, it's engineers at Purdue, and then it's like everybody else. And for the engineers at Purdue, if you're not in engineering, you're like way at the bottom of the totem pole. And then even within engineering, there are certain disciplines that are like Of course, everyone puts themselves at the top or whatever. But like, I remember, like, there were certain things on campus where they wouldn't allow engineers to like participate because of like because of those dynamics. It's like, well, we don't want, it was like some kind of business competition or something. I don't like, I was intrigued. I don't know if I would have done it. Maybe I would have. I was like very intrigued. But they were like, no engineering students because it makes everyone else like feel like it triggers, but it's a culture. We'll call it unspoken. There's an unspoken culture of engineering superiority at Purdue. And because of that unspoken culture, it's like it makes certain students feel whatever. And then you have engineers coming in and dominating stuff. Like, I remember I sat in on an RA interview, and their task was to use Connects or Legos or whatever to build the tallest tower they could. And you have the people that are trying to, mostly dudes, trying to be the alpha, trying to make a good showing so that they stand out in this group process interview. Being an observer and an evaluator, it completely backfires. Like, it doesn't make there are ways to do it, and then there are ways to not do it, and the performative way of doing it doesn't read well. But there was, hello, am I live? Hello. This is the second time I've had to reconnect. Second time I've had to reconnect. Whoop, whoop. Girl, I've had to reconnect again. Anyway, she was like, I'm not an engineer, but like what they built on the box seems pretty tall. We could just build that. And they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. And again, it's like, because I understand that there are higher, and it, like, to me it like blows my mind because I don't think like that. I don't think like culturally old. Am I like losing connection again, like for real? Maybe like, okay, we get it, you're rambling, get to the point. To be fair, it seems like a storm is like rolling in or whatever. Am I still live? Hello, hi, I'm waving. Yeah, I'm still live. Anyway, I understand that some people subscribe to stuff like that. I don't. So, yeah, it's weird to me, but wow, for the third time. For the third time. Well, I said I was going to reconnect as long as they let me. I feel like the stream is purposefully and intentionally cutting out at certain points so that people, so that I can't fully express myself. I go, I'm 100% pro separation, and then they cut my stream. No, don't no, we ain't leaving nothing blank. I'm gonna tell you, so you don't have to populate with your own mind all kinds of reasons why, blah blah blah, whatever. No, we ain't doing that. There is no hierarchy to me. Okay, and that's it. And again, like, again, maybe for some people, yeah, I'm just so me with my little algal moon, where I'm like, even if that were, maybe this is why this maybe this is why the sword and separation is out, because it's like, even if that were true, I would excise myself, I would amputate the all just to make me my own little piece and fragment. That is how strongly I feel about it. Honestly, no lies, no lies, 100% truth. You know what I mean? There's a little Patrick shaped hole. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I don't know. It's just so. it doesn't resonate as true to me. And I don't need it to believe in harmony and peace and love and stuff like that. Like, I don't need to be a part of something bigger. I don't need to be any more or any less of myself. I don't know. It's not saying that people who align that way do. What's true is true. It's just not my truth. Right. And I've always been that. I've always been that. So I guess that's a part of why some people think I am like, you never listen to me. It's like, yeah, because I listen to me. Duh. But I do. I have gotten better at listening, being more flexible and malleable. I have learned that I can afford to be more flexible. I can afford my own company, and I will compromise, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I don't want to say bastardize myself. Maybe I will. I'm not going to bastardize myself just to fit in or feel like I'm a part of something or just so people will like me or like, no. Maybe if I, we ain't got to go there. It's just not me. It's just not me. All right, who am I putting away first? Final cards. Maybe I'll do the Notoria since it's in my hands. Ooh, she's a bright one. The Fool with that Five of Swords at the cut. Yeah. Which I put away. But yeah. Cool. All right. Final Notoria. I don't know. There are some things, like I was saying, this was like weeks ago now, because I did something else. It was like another self read that I did offline. And there are parts of me that are extraordinary. There are parts of all of us that are extraordinary. It's our job to find, identify, hone, whatever those extraordinary parts. Sometimes there are special people in our lives that help us, be they people we know or strangers, that help us find and identify those things. There are some times where there are things that we may excel at or things that we may be good at, but they're not necessarily what's extraordinary about us. You know what I mean? Anyway, there are things that are extraordinary about me that for some reason, when I would think of like my journey and healing, I guess because of the nature of healing and because of where I was, like my journey meant what it meant. There were like shadow work that I had to do, stuff like that, right? Your typical run of the mill. There were things that I had to. Are you? Is it because I popped out the chat? I don't know. I just wanted to get it off my screen so it wouldn't distract me. I mean, I don't think anyone's chatted, but still. Hello? Maybe I should leave it in. Waving. Yeah, I think we're still live. Yeah, we're still live. Because of all of the things that I was avoiding for so long, and I had to face them, and then like life happened, and I was learning to live in ways that I was always too afraid to live. The work for me never involved the parts of me that were extraordinary. And it wasn't until like a few weeks ago where it was like, I don't know if it's a threshold, I don't know if it's a point. I've reached a point in my journey, I can say that. I've reached a part in my journey where it's to like integrate the extraordinary or to realize that the extraordinary parts of me are also me. And so as I continue to like work on myself and as I continue to be the better and better version of me, especially because I'm looking for a fulfillment in life in this in, in this phase of my life, or as long as I'm looking for it, I'm looking for a kind of fulfillment that requires me to be more of who I am, that requires me to bring more and more aspects of myself to life and to living. And so, again, earlier in the year, especially, it was like, I can't be surprised that the easy things aren't just working out, or that my comfort zone is inhospitable, or that I find myself in situations where I have to put myself out there because that's what I've been wanting. Not only is it what I've been wanting, it's also like what I've been feeling. Um, and for some reason, again, I always thought, even though, like, kind of towards the end, I could recognize that, like, it's the extraordinary parts of me that can do this. Or, like, this is an aspect that calls on the extraordinary parts of me. Excuse me. I would like, basically, like, I would think I would have to reinvent the wheel rather than use the four that I have. You know what I mean? Like, I've already got plenty of wheels, plenty of spares, and plenty of styles, colors with different rims and trims and seasonings. Some have thicker treads and whatever for the winter, and the other ones are whatever for different seasons. Um, and so again, like, to see the sword now, I'm like, this is what I wanted. Anyway, but yeah, I really didn't, like, it hit me in a way that I'm like, I'm surprised it hit me like it did. Because in my mind, I'm like, that makes sense. Like, why did I think that? I mean, it is a very Patrick thing to make some things more difficult than they need. It's a very human thing. It's an especially Patrick thing. Humans, and I know it's a Patrick thing, to make certain things complicated than they need to be. And an appreciation of the complex sometimes overcomplicate. But yeah, I was just like, wow. All right, final card from the Notoria for this OJL Self-Read. I feel like the first sip of that hit me in a way that the rest of it did not. But that's fine. I'm not on here to get trashed. I mean, I'm not on here to necessarily drink it all. Why are you here, Patrick? That's a great question. I'm going to ask the Notoria. For the Notoria, your final card. Why am I here? Why is Patrick here? I'm going to keep going until I get a clean flip or clean fall. Specifically, why am I here on the YouTubes? Right? I mean, I've already said why I'm here today, why this was important for me. So you know who you're watching. And if I align, if the messages align, cool. If they don't, find who does for you. Life is too short. Life is too short, and there are too many things that matter to get lost in the ones that don't. Cool. I think that was a smooth flip. I think that was a. Oh, yep, we got it. We got it. Page of Wands. Interesting card. Why the Page of Wands? Oh, well, that makes sense. Bottom of the deck is the Page of Pentacles. We got the Page of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. We have number 2, Jeliel, and number 17, Lauaya? Lahuaya or Lauvaya? Lavaya? Lauvia? I don't know. I'm probably butchering all these names. Number 2, Jeliel. Jeliel. Jelly, jelly, yeah. The helpful God. I'm here to be helpful. Thank you. The card said it, not me. I always say it's like there are a lot of things that I think truly resonate for a lot of people, but because of because the world is what the world is, and because even though information is more available, certain types of information are more available than they've ever been. And just the fact that there's so much information available, regardless of how resonant or credible or whatever, there's so much information available that it can be easy to fall in line with things that may be more resonant for us than other things, but that may not resonate completely or have limited resonance, right? But like we can overcommit, or we can follow a bunch of like rules and like you have to do this and you have to do that. That's not really for us. There are certain people who are gifted. It is their gift to help others get into the nitty gritty of their specifics. Not necessarily mine, not necessarily one that I want. It's not necessarily a service that I'm interested in providing, because it's not a service that I'm interested in providing, because it's not a role that I'm interested in performing. It's a gift that I don't necessarily care to have, if that makes sense. I think to a certain degree, yeah, I have it. And because of how I'm wired and operate and process the world and whatever, and my connection to the divine or whatever, there are certain things that maybe I'd be of like limited help with. But ultimately, not my path. My aim is though to provide like a different perspective, or to speak on things that I feel like deserve speaking on, to speak on things that I feel need to be spoken to. If there's a truth out there that I don't necessarily hear, my North Node in Sagittarius says you can make a channel just like anybody else and say what you need to say. Again, because there are things that are true for different folks. For the folks that is true for, anyway. The helpful guide. The dynamic and wise Seraph Jeliel immerses the will in a vessel of dispassionate, primal, and essential love. Through Jeliel, the will is sublimatio, what? Crazy, okay. The will is sublimated and directed, becoming benevolent energy apt to calm conflicts and shed light on our most restless impulses. His presence announces, influences, or stimulates the arrival of something new, leaping from on high to materialize below, unless an excess of his peaceful influence creates a stalemate. The sense of satisfaction and consolation it conveys may satisfy us until we desire nothing more, and stifle that ardor in a loving vessel that should submit to the dominance of will, not vice versa. I'm gonna have to reread that last one again because it confused me. His presence announces, influences, or stimulates the arrival of something new, leaping from on high to materialize below, unless an excess of his peaceful influence creates a stalemate. The sense of satisfaction and consolation it conveys may satisfy us until we desire nothing more, and stifle that ardor in a loving vessel that should submit to the dominance of will, not vice versa. Girl, ain't this for me? Hello? Because I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand. What are you hey, maybe I'm not reading it right. Satisfaction and consolation it conveys may satisfy us until we desire nothing more, and stifle that ardor in a loving vessel that should submit to the dominance of will, not vice versa. So what's the other way? Dominance of will submitting to the ardor? Maybe that's for me to reflect on after. This is the chorus of Seraphim. Of course, it's Saturn, Aries, the Three of Wands, Page of Wands. Page of Wands, of course, because it's the Page of Wands. Saturn and Aries is interesting because we saw Aries before. We saw Saturn before. Aries is the Emperor, which was the 4 in the Quantum Tarot. We did see that 4 in the Quantum Tarot somewhere. Anyway. Cool. Why am I here? To be helpful. That's what the card said. The will is sublimated and directed, becoming benevolent energy apt to calm conflicts and shed light on our most restless impulses. His presence announces, influences, or stimulates the arrival of something new, leaping from on high to materialize below. And I feel like that's the whole, like, trying to illuminate different perspectives, especially when there can sometimes be so much dissonance in how something is presented / marketed and how it like shows up, like an empathy or a love that is void of compassion and consideration for others is like interesting. I'll say it's interesting to me, you know? So that's why, I may be like, okay, well, we say one thing, but our actions and the results of our actions kind of lead in a different way. So maybe we should look at that. And again, what's true is true for whoever else. Just because it's not true for me doesn't mean it's not for anybody. Under this is the moon. Under the moon is the Queen of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles, the moon and the Queen. Page of Pentacles, the moon and the Queen of Pentacles is such an interesting energy. I thought you were just a page. Yeah, and that's why you're treating me like this. The thing about me is I can afford, in most cases, situations, scenarios, and instances, I can afford to be fooled. I can afford to be trusting. I can afford to be beguiled. I can afford to be deceived, especially when it comes to learning who, how, and what something is. You know what I mean? Like if it's not to my detriment, if I don't like, if I'm not risking something that I care about, I can afford to be extra trusting. I can afford to, I don't want to say ignore my intuition. I can afford for something to prove to me why it's as I feel it is, if that makes sense. And then especially if the Taurus in me comes out, because it's one thing to be like, I feel this way and I'm going to show up because of how I feel, even if ain't nothing been done yet. And it's another thing to, after something is done, like, also, what did Alyssa Edwards say to Fifi O'Hara when she came from behind the mirror and she was like, trust the Duchess? Is that when she said trust the Duchess? Where she was like, oh, so you're that girl that I knew that you were. Okay. Like, you're exactly who I knew you were. Thanks for telling me. Thanks for showing me. I had enough. Not to be that, whatever. Maybe I am. I don't know. I feel like I've been called dramatic or too much. I'm a Pisces. It's in it's in my DNA. I'm a lover of the arts and the theater. It runs in my veins. What can I say? Anyway, bottom of the deck is the Page. Oh, this is interesting that the Page of Pentacles is here with this because of the sun that was being brewed in the cauldron and the Five of Swords. This card actually came out before. With that was the Orb of Dominion that the Emperor holds. Bottom of the deck is Lauvia, God of Marvels. Ooh, I do love Marvels. Marvels as in like Marvel, not as in the films and the superheroes and stuff like that. Most of Marvel I ain't got nothing against. I don't know, I'm not a big superhero person, which it's kind of weird for me. It's kind of weird for me to not be more into superheroes because I love the superhero fantasy, like the people having powers and stuff. Like, I love that, but I'm not a Marvel DC girly. Um, yeah, I just, unless there's some, like I mentioned it before, unless like I do love like crossovers and especially anything with like parallel universes and timelines and stuff like that. Sure, that's when I'm on board. Um, and it's not that I dislike them. I feel like I haven't had a strong dislike for any particular movie that I've seen. I'm just not like, I don't go out of my way to see them, if that makes sense. Anyway, it's fine. God of Marvels, Lauvia, the first angel we meet in the Chorus of Thrones, infuses revelation that can make us instantly understand the truth and laws that move the universe. Thus, by freeing our minds from material thinking, inspiration for great works or discoveries, whether in art or science, is fostered. Works to be brought to completion by giving them form in the material world. So both of these mention, Jeliel mentioned things falling from on high to materialize in the physical world, much like this one, works to be brought to completion by giving them form in the material world. Cool. If this revelatory inspiration is not able to project upward through our works, discouragement will turn into frustration and lead to the self-destruction of our spiritual values, cutting off communication with them. Number 17 in the Chorus of Thrones, associated with the Page of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles, and also Uranus and Gemini. Uranus is in Gemini right now. Oh my gosh. Uranus and Gemini, sextile Saturn and Aries. Interesting. Cool. That's why I'm here. To marvel. Yeah, I'm here to marvel and try to be helpful. I feel like it's pretty succinct. Because I love to marvel and I want to try to be helpful. Cool. All right. So now we'll go to the bottom of alchemy. Final card will be how. How can I better show up? And wow. That's the marvel. That was really helpful. Okay. I was like, what was the first one? An alchemy that I could engage to better show up. Ooh, girl, don't give me no sugar. That's, I don't know. I feel like I'm not necessarily confrontational. I can be conflict avoidant. It depends on the situation. If there is no imperative that a conflict not be avoided, then typically I tend to avoid them. If there is an imperative to not avoid a conflict, I try not to avoid them. It depends. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it's not for me to say anything, you know? But hey, we are where we are. I think that's another thing too for me, like to finally reach this point. It's like I am where I am, we are where we are, and it just I don't know. To me, it feels like it's time for action. I mean, again, my word of the year is enact, so not surprised. All right, how can I better be a helpful marveler? Should I get two cards? I mean, the Marvels thing, I feel like that's not whatever, right? I mean, that just is what it is. So just maybe like, how can I be more helpful? What's an alchemy that will help me be more helpful? All right. Ooh, claim flip or claim fall. Yep, we're doing it. Ooh, that was no. Guess what alchemy fell out? I'll give you a clue. It's a quote unquote planet. That was actually two clues. Bottom of the deck is Kaput Korwi, number 47. The Raven's Head. The Raven's Head is like, girl, it is what it is. Like, I understand that you don't like to be confrontational. I understand that, you know, um, there are other things that you are focusing your energy and attention and efforts on. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And it ain't gonna be what it ain't gonna be. So North Node and Sagittarius, speak on it. That's my Duolingo notification. Why is it so late already? Number 11. Hold up, wait. Kaput Korwi XL40 VII7. This is 1111. I see 1147 a lot. I see the 1147 11. I see the 1147 1111 a lot. 11 and 47. Oh, whoa. There's gold in Chiron. And it's like the raven is coming to catch it. Is Chiron pulling the pearl out of the raven's mouth like some kind of tractor beam? Or is Chiron like projecting it and then the raven is like catching it? Is it both or is it neither? Wounds, teachings, and paradoxes. I do love a good paradox. I love a good paradox. Some of them. Anyway, wounds, teachings, and paradoxes. Chiron is a cosmic enigma. In Greek mythology, he is said to be the rejected son of Saturn, who through the pain of abandonment becomes a great teacher and healer. Such is the paradoxical nature of this minor planet. It demonstrates that our pain is a great resource. It will guide us to our deepest purpose if we are able to observe it slowly, gently, and with support. When the Chiron card appears, know that you are being called to deepen the work, to delve into tender parts of yourself that require patience and forgiveness. Victim mentality will get you nowhere. You're past blaming. What? Oh, you are past blaming. Okay. It's time to let your painful experiences serve as a beacon of light to others. Chiron reminds us of where we've been and where that allows us to go. Interesting. So, the way that I can be more helpful is to trigger people, to be more North Node Sagittarius, to tell like it is. Hey, this may be a tender topic for you, but I don't care because avoiding it is keeping you, keeping us, keeping the collective, keeping the whole world spiraling in ways that we've convinced ourselves it's just the journey to do. It is the journey to spiral. I mean, just because progress isn't linear doesn't mean that we're just supposed to circle the drain for literally years upon years upon years until we leave. Like, that's part of, I feel like there are ways that things are because of how we approach them and navigate them. And in lieu of, in absence of a different approach, a quote unquote better approach, we convince ourselves that something is like a truth or a greater truth. Not to say that it isn't, but it's like, or maybe we spiral because the things that are the toughest to face, the things that are the hardest to face, we systematically continue to not face and not address. And that's why we spiral. Not because it's some deep truth, not because it's an inherent truth, not because it's true at all, but just because that is this insanity that we experience when we do the same things over and over and over and over and over again. Or when we don't do the same things over and over and over and over and over again. If there is a boulder, there's like more space on the left and the right today. Like, usually I feel like it's more here. Anyway, if there's a pool, right? And there's a boulder up here, and because the boulder is here, the water just like swirls because the exit is blocked. If you never remove that blockage, then, like, yeah, for generations upon generations upon generations, we're going to think that it just spirals and that's a part of life. It's like, because, there's like the whole ice wall thing, right? Like, girl, okay. Let me be careful. Let me not speak too much on things that I know nothing about. I was gonna say it's interesting that there's this whole ice wall thing, but we basically like ice wall the spiritual journey. And anyway, some things are a spiral, sure, but not everything has to be. If you remove the boulder, then the water will pass on to its next destination. If we destroy the dams, then the water can flow, right? And again, it's like it's stuff that we systemically just, and maybe it's stuff that we systemically don't face because we don't know how to, or because there are incentives not to, or because there like aren't enough models of facing whatever. So we like just don't. But again, like, the tower is one of my birth cards. The chariot is the other one. If you break through the boulder tower, you can move forward and not endlessly spiral. Chariot. Moving forward, the chariot. Not endlessly spiraling, chariot. And again, the things that we like, insanity is also like not doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Like, if we never face an obstacle, it's always going to be there. And part of the nature of the spiral, so that we can delve deeper, again, Chiron, diving deeper and deeper and deeper until we get to the root, until we get to the source of something, and then removing it. Cool. Maybe it's just like it's time. The boulder has been on the path for long enough. We've spiraled for long enough, and we don't have to anymore. Of course, we can continue to choose to, but it is no longer necessary. Kaput Korwi Raven. Hey, so this is the fourth time. The fourth time I've had to reconnect. It's cool. It's fine. It's whatever. Like I said, I'll keep reconnecting as long as they let me reconnect, but I do need to finish this because I got to do my Duolingo lesson before midnight. I'm trying to keep my streak. I'm at like almost 600 days, maybe. Anyway, I could put core we initiation, the ordeal, and the work begins. I'm like, it's fine. Though alchemy is filled with a myriad of open ended symbols, the raven's head has a precise message. It arrives to mark the beginning of the work. This card indicates something has occurred, known or unknown, to initiate the spinning of the alchemical wheel. With its mighty churning, things are about to change on every level. The raven's work cannot be undone, just as the peel cannot be unswallowed, or the pearl turned back to sand. You may be overwhelmed or think the journey ahead is not for you. Your doubts matter not to the raven, as its appearance signifies it has chosen you. You are ready, and the moment is now. Can you go back to the way things were? Can you pretend nothing has changed? The raven calls a clear no. It does not apologize, as it knows your destiny is great. Interesting. So, when it comes to breaking down the boulders, it's happening. Or it's just like, excuse me, the time is now, the time is nigh. We got to do what we got to do. Right? So, yeah, basically, how can I do it better? By telling it like a TI is. What does that mean? That's the saying, right? Tell it like a TI is. Like, why is it not IT? Tell it like it. TI is. Why? Telling it. Okay, wait. Girl, okay, AI overview, you failed me. Not tell it like it is. I know what tell it like it is. Come on. Do I gotta go to Urban Dictionary? Not tell it like it is. AR overview is failing me. Word reference forums. There are so many things. I'm like, what is the origin of this? Not the song. I'm not looking for song lyrics. It's fine. Tell it like a TI is, meaning origin. The phrase tell it like it is means to speak the truth, especially when it is unpleasant or controversial, without trying to soften the message or avoid difficult details. Its origin is linked to black speech in the 1940s and 1950s, where it signified being straightforward and honest. The phrase gained wider popularity in the 1960s, particularly among black activists and later by hippies and the political left to address societal issues with unflinching honesty. Yeah. But why is it TI? It's like tis? I don't know. Anyway, that's what I want to know. So that was that. Tell it like a TI is. It is what it is, and it ain't gonna be what it ain't gonna be. And I feel like so often we can coddle ourselves so much to the point where like we spiral because we don't actually address the thing that needs addressing. Or maybe like we talk about addressing it. It's like talking around issues, but not doing anything. It's like all talk and no action. And if something needs to change, there has to be an action. If there is no change, if there is no action, then of course we're going to keep circling. It doesn't matter how long we talk about it. Awareness is only half the battle. You know what I mean? Knowing is only half the battle. And I feel like that's something, that's why like I went full into my Sag North node, because it's like I feel like we just coddle ourselves so much and so hard that nothing is done. And so why talk about it? Like, why speak solution if we're not going to put anything into play? You know what I mean? You know what? I'm going to give myself, I should have enough time. I have an hour. Um, SKT. All right. SKT. What is something that we need to tell like a TI is? Nah, 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 nah. Nah. Let's just get a final card. Final card, please. SKT. Well, bottom of the deck is Sacred Fire. Ace of Scepters, The Awakening. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. I don't know words. Chop suey. You want to do. Ace of Scepters, we see the rising sun, the sun that was in the cauldron and the pot. Sacred Fire, there is the crown of the Emperor, where we saw the Orb of Dominion in that page of Pentacles. The Chancellor and the Dark Horse. This is Mars in Leo, sextile Libra. Angel of Justice. Angel of Justice and the Dark Horse with Sacred Fire at the bottom of the deck and the Empress behind that Sacred Fire. That's one thing. I've said it before. And I've said it before because I've said it before. I didn't feel like it needed to be said again. I don't know if I'll necessarily say it here. Like, I don't know how helpful it is. Not helpful. To me, what is divine is, for all intents and purposes, perfect. The way that I feel about the word perfect is like, to me, there's a certain constitution to what is divine. And I think, like, we make a lot of statements collectively in general, or I see a lot of statements about like the divine or the divine feminine or the divine masculine, and we comment on the state and status of the divine feminine, the divine masculine, as like broken or rising or whatever. And in the sense of the presence of the divine feminine on earth, or the divine masculine on earth, or divine whatever on earth, sure. But it's like, let's say you have the divine and then you have worshipers of the divine. And the worshipers of the divine are doing whatever they're doing. And it's like making a statement on the condition of the divine because of the worshipers. And I'm like, I don't know, to me, I don't see it that way. And I don't know. I wonder what the helpfulness is. of seeing like the divine feminine, the divine masculine as rising or waking up or broken or disempowered or whatever. Like on one hand, again, like I can see it in terms of like if we're talking about the state of people and people being the embodiment of the divine feminine, divine masculine, or the divine within people. If we're talking about like if we mention the divine in that way, of like, sure, but I don't know. Like I feel like maybe it would be more helpful to look at like the reception or the expression of the divine. Like we're seeing more and more expressions of divine femininity or divine feminine energy is being given its due more so than like, I don't know, directing that comment to the state of the divine itself or the divine feminine itself, herself. You know what I mean? And maybe that's another reason why I haven't said anything. Because I'm like, is it just semantics? But I don't know. Anyway, the Chancellor and the Dark Horse. Is this 7-Eleven? Pit stop. The Chancellor, the Dark Horse, and the Sacred Fire Awakening is an interesting combination. Maybe this is the why with that telling it like a TI is. Because there is so much dissonance and disconnect between the love that we all claim to believe in whatever form, fashion, and shape of that love, and how we show up in the world. I feel like things have kind of gotten so extreme in a lot of ways that it's becoming pretty obvious. But I don't know, I feel like it shouldn't have had to come to what it's come to reach that point where it's like, I don't know. But maybe it's just like whatever this energy of justice is, whatever the true energy of justice is, it isn't always what we think of as justice because we place ourselves on the lighter side of the scale almost always. And because of the things that are justified, how we justify things to ourselves and justify the actions of others. And maybe it's partially because so much like justice and judgment has been called for. Excuse me, it's almost like being given an opportunity to unburden ourselves as we've been collectively calling for and manifesting all over the world in different ways and for maybe different reasons as the call for justice has been getting louder and louder and louder for years now. It's almost like it's an opportunity for us to see with clearer eyes and to face the mirror of ourselves before like justice does a clean sweep or whatever. It's just like whatever the energy of justice is, with it being paired with the dark horse, it's almost like not necessarily what we think it is. Maybe we found out that justice isn't what we thought it was. Maybe there were things that we did because we thought it would bring some kind of justice, only to find out that it wasn't. But the thing is, I feel like so many things have been so thinly veiled for long enough where even if there were alternatives that held untruths or incomplete truths or even lies, I feel like what is taking center stage, what is like really playing out, pretty much all of it is as advertised. And if there's ever been anything to dispute what's what the truth of something actually is, it's been so paper thin that we'd only buy into it. It's almost like it would take an act of willingful ignorance to continue to buy into it, as Saturn has been transiting Pisces for the last few. It's about to retrograde back into Pisces, and it's like, girl, like it was literally laid out. Like, what do you mean you didn't know? You chose not to see. Oh, the title card is at the top of the deck. Why is the title card here? The Eminence, 9 of Coins. Cool. I don't know. Actually, I've been getting really into the little white book lately. So I'll read the Chancellor. Who was it? The Chancellor and the Dark Horse? 7 of Wands should be back here. 9. Realm of Seven. 7 of Scepters, the Dark Horse. Found it. The Chancellor. Number 11. I'm not going to hold up the card. The Chancellor. This spirit represents rectification measures that counter karmic consequences. It is the spirit guiding you toward balanced judgment and making clear decisions. Do not judge based on appearances. Choose balanced action, balanced words, and balanced thought. When the Chancellor appears to you, it is a call to make the necessary adjustments so that you might restore balance. The angel of justice arrives when all considerations have been duly weighed and the resulting outcome of the choices you've made, your actions, and your speech has now been determined. Key 11 marks that point when the truth comes out. The scales of your life are about to get tipped so that balance can be maintained. And the 7 of Wands, the Dark Horse. The Dark Horse is the underdog who blindsides the naysayers and will emerge victorious. When you are being cornered or are outnumbered, the Dark Horse appears to you, ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as you take on your opposition. You will emerge in prominence and glory. Take that fighting stance and ready yourself. The Dark Horse is marginalization personified, and yet the spirit is extraordinary in both strength and stealth. This is the spirit of valor who has come now to empower you with courage. When outnumbered, you resist. Cool. Say less. Maybe I should read more. Say less, read more. All right. That was this. I need to keep an eye on the time. 11:13. Quantum Tarot. Actually, an aspect. Let's get a water known archetype. An archetype of what? Archetypal justice. Let's get an archetypal justice. Oof. The card that flipped out, it was like a dirty flip, clean fall type situation. Number 29, the self. I think the self was behind. It was the unseen, the mask, the sword. I think the self was behind the sword. It's interesting though that this pearl is here. Or the pearl, the gold. It's more like a pearl here. It's interesting that the pearl is here because that was what was in the mouth of the raven's head. It held the pearl. What is dulled by Chiron is given radiance here because we've told it like a TI is to ourselves because we've had those uncomfortable realizations, worked through those truths, because we've made attempts to balance the scales as well as we can. When the scales further tip in alignment with that balance, it will add momentum in the ways that we've already been balancing, or it'll counterbalance, or maybe we haven't done much of anything and it'll just kind of do what it does. But with that dark horse, again, it was like, regardless of how unpopular the opinion, regardless of whatever. And it's interesting how many unpopular opinions have become popular recently. It's interesting how what kind of could be considered like revolutionary or groundbreaking or like rebellious at certain points kind of like isn't now. Well, I don't want to say like what's been co-opted into the norm, but what has kind of been dulled, I guess. And in some ways further perpetuates what it is theoretically opposing to. Like it lies in theoretical opposition, but practical alignment. Anyway, the self is here. That pearl, because your destiny is great, the Raven's Head has no qualms about doing whatever, whether you're ready or not. Bottom of the deck is the comic. And in the comic, behind the eyes of the cat, we see the truth. We see the person with the face of the man. The face of the man behind the eyes of the kitty cat with the self. Maybe the comic is just waiting for their moment. Maybe they're gesturing it up in the king's court until they're not. The self, number 29. 2 plus 9 is 11. We just had 11 and 47, 11, 11. Now we have a 29. 11. Cool. The self. This is the soul, the witness, and the watcher. The self is the prism that allows the spectrum of our personalities to radiate. It does not judge, prohibit, suppress, or oppress any of its parts, as it lovingly knows that all aspects have a time and a place, and leads us to experience the full breadth of life's offerings. The self is the central abiding container, the awareness of the infinite universe of possibilities. When this card appears, it's a call to step back in to witness consciousness. Our ego draws us into the cauldron where we swirl, spin, and smolder in chaos. Yet the self is a graceful culinary dancer, watching, waiting, observing, as the spectrum of ingredients become the flavor of our life. Look in the mirror for 30 seconds or more. Attempt to see the you behind the you. Attempt to see the you behind the you, and the comic is at the bottom of the deck with the eyes of the person behind that of the cat. That is wild. Attempt to see the you behind the you. Cool. I guess that was a self-read. So, I mean, maybe this whole thing was self-read. Because it mentioned the cauldron. In most situations, our ego draws us into the cauldron where we swirl, spin, and smolder in chaos. And it's interesting because we saw chaos, but it was only chaotic if we didn't look at the whole picture. Because in both the mask and the blade, and in the self, we see some of the colors. But in both the mask and the blade, it was like half color, half black and white. And the chaos was only the black and white. It didn't have any of the color. It didn't have any of the contextualization. It didn't have any of the personal flair. And because we are people, there's a certain level of grace that we should give ourselves because of how much we can and can't control in the environments, in our surroundings, and in the larger goings on of the world. But what we can't control isn't necessarily a complete release of any kind of personal accountability or responsibility. Just like what we can isn't necessarily for us to take responsibility for everything. I think when it comes to the chancellor, when it comes to justice, when it comes to certain logically, what we as people make of logic is to exclude any emotions, emotionality, or I want to say personal qualities. That is like a human logic. But in my mind, it is truly illogical to remove all of the factors that make the person that person. Us being who we are affects our logic. Like I was talking to one of my friends a few months ago, and he was like, well, because I had a disagreement with somebody, I'm more, I have a balance, but I tend to the emotional. The other person has a balance, but tends to the logical. And the mediator, the third party, was like, well, that person is logical. And so they're not going to see things this way. And I was like, but if they're truly logical, shouldn't they be able to account for something? And he was like, no, that's more of the emotional. That's more of the relational. But in my mind, it's just like it's not logical to expect for fish to fly and for eagles to swim underwater and to live like dolphins. In the same way that that's illogical, I feel like a part of logic should be able to account for different, logic should be able to account for a reality. You know what I mean? Anyway, it speaks to the arbiter, how we've seen the arbiter. The arbiter is also a function of justice, but she takes into account the personal, the person, people, our environments, our situations, the worlds that we're born in, the lives that we're born into, the things that we're taught, the things that are instilled in us. But also, she is aware of concepts like personal responsibility, right? Just because we are born into the world that we're born into the lives, the belief structures, the families that we're born into, doesn't alleviate us of the responsibility to eventually, at some point, listen to our conscience, right? Or to see the truth of certain things. So it's balance, like the balance of the chancellor. It's a balanced approach to justice. But there's a lot of that balance that we can do within ourselves. And I will say that more and more and more, it appeared, and it still does, more and more and more in recent years, we've become better in general about being mindful of that balance between reality and ingrained perception or inherited perception. Because we've questioned, we've looked with open eyes, we've listened with open hearts, hopefully. Oh, that was a dirty flip. Oh, that flipped so dirty. Okay. I was able to correct the dirty flip without the card falling out, so it'll come out if it's meant to. Oop. All right. Oh, what's up with all these dirty flips? I want a clean flip or clean fall. If you're gonna flip, you gotta flip all the way over. If you're gonna fall, you gotta fall all the way. Well, we just got a clean fall. It was a semi flip turned into a clean fall. Bottom of the deck is 15, which is double energy. And it's like behind the scenes. The card that came out is the Page of Swords. I believe this is the Page of Swords. It's a Page of Swords, but it's holding a caduceus. This is Mercury. Well, it's not. For the Page of Swords to be associated with Mercury isn't completely groundbreaking, unexpected. But for Mercury to be holding the caduceus on the Page of Swords, kind of is. Because the caduceus, the rod of Asclepius, it's like a symbol used for like healing and stuff. And usually it's like the Page of Swords wouldn't be the healer, but with devil energy at the bottom of the deck, this Page of Swords is a liberator. The swiftness and agility of the mind is the liberation from these old constructs. The Queen of Pentacles is under that devil energy. This is a Page of Swords like we're supposed to see the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords came out in some deck recently. And I was like, this page ain't paging. I think it was the Page of Swords and like the Ace of Pentacles. It was like, Page of Swords, you're supposed to give us something new, something fresh, something interesting, something groundbreaking. Mercury. Mercury is the nearest planet to the sun and the second smallest after Pluto. Its surface resembles the moon, full of impact and distinctly lacking in atmosphere. Mercury was the messenger, the equivalent of the Greek Hermes. He ruled all forms of communication, from speech to writing to the internet. The Page of Swords is the ultimate student. His boundless, indiscriminate desire for information can become gossipy or shallow, but essentially, he represents the curious child who is forever asking, why? That was the detailed one. Oh, wait, I'm going to bookmark this real quick. Give me 1 second. And a memento, the devil is a black hole. The quick and dirty Page of Swords, the beginner's course, I guess. I don't know. The Page of Swords is the archetypal student. He represents the desire to learn through communication, reading, or formal study. What is exciting? Your curiosity. The black hole, the devil. Black holes are extremely small and dense, exerting such a large gravitational pull that nothing, not even light, can escape. If you could observe someone approaching a black hole, the force of gravity would be so enormous that time would seem to slow down. At a certain point in time, it would appear to stop altogether. Because time and space are connected, the massive distortion in space caused by the black hole also causes a distortion in time. The devil represents any powerful, irresistible force that sucks us in. We may be seduced by the power of an individual or by fame or, I'm assuming, fortune or wealth. Once trapped, we realize we have paid for our gains with freedom. The devil symbolizes relationships of all kinds that involve subjugation. The key to this card is imbalance of power. wherever we are in someone else's power, the devil is present. Wherever we are in someone else's power, the devil is present. Underneath the unbalance, the devil indicates an immense reservoir of energy that has got stuck. Our challenge is to release it. So we have the inescapable, the ever attractive, seductive, irresistible black hole devil energy, but a curiosity, a freedom of mind, of speed, of travel to escape it. And that's the thing. So much of illusion and devil energy is catered to, you could say, our shortcomings, our quote unquote failures, or perceived shortcomings and failures, our sensibilities and comfortabilities. And it's only as irresistible and whatever this is, tough to break out of because we fall into patterns, which is why it's also associated with like addictions and habits and stuff like that. Um, but with an open mind and curiosity, again, so much has been so thinly veiled, where it's like one and one ain't making two. We breaking a dollar and ended up with 2 cents. Like, where's the rest of the 98? It's time to not only think outside of the box, maybe too, it almost reads like there is an element of simplicity because it's almost like because something is becoming so blatantly obvious, it's almost like imagine, oh, we have the black hole when we were talking about the spiral circling the drain earlier. It's like circling the drain, getting sucked into the black hole. And in that environment, there's an inevitability that like washes over us. And it's because of that inevitability, it's because of a perceived, like, because of an experienced fear and dread that our vision takes on a perceptive gray. And it's almost like imagine being pulled to the center of the vortex, to the center of the black hole, to the sinkhole. But then we notice that like there are other things that are like navigating that space as if the black hole weren't even there. Or they're like defying that gravitational pull. And without the heaviness of that perceptive filter, it's like we would see it and then the cogs of liberation would begin to turn in our minds of like, oh, like if this isn't as irresistible as a thought, or if there are things that can stand against these forces, or if there are like other ways that things can be done, like, and it's happening, then it's like counter evidence. I don't know. Where did we go with this by the end? I don't know. But the self was there, right? Yeah, we literally just saw the self. The devil disempowers. Where was it? The Seven of Wands? Yeah, it was the Seven of Wands that empowers and encourages that dark horse to stand against nearly insurmountable forces. Even literally, the dark horse with justice is the foil to that devil energy. Like, we're not alone in that fight. Even if circumstances continue to go in a certain way that may prove our intuition or our knowing of the changing of things false. If we have a knowing, if we have a belief, and we are encouraged to stand on it or to continue to act, to move forward. Mars and Libra sextile that Mercury, the Mercury that came out. Um, it's like stand firm in that because something's about to shift, something's about to move, something's about to break. Um, and maybe the thing is us. Excuse me. So anyway, that's been whatever this is. I hope you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey, what you find. And if you wanted to know more about who you're watching, I hope you know more about who you're watching. This is oh girl. Not the Disney girlies being back. What is going on? I'm seeing the Jonas Brothers everywhere. On podcasts, on reels, on stages, with Demi Lovato. Anyway. Cool. That's all I got. I think that's all I got. What time is it? I kind of want to 11:35. I kind of want to wrap this up with one more card. I don't know what I'm gonna get from one of these, but I'll get one of these. A Places Oracle card. I actually ordered a new deck. Apparently it's coming from Spain, which is weird. Like I didn't think I'd be ordering something that was coming from Spain, but one of my friends is actually in Spain. I was like, wow. I was also partly like, can you pick up this deck for me? And then just bring it back with you because I don't know how long it's going to take. It's another, I think they call them lenticular. It's another holographic type deck. Oh, that was a weird flip. It wasn't dirty. It was a flip. It wasn't dirty. It was kind of dirty, but smooth. Airport departures and arrivals, adventures await. It's interesting that it's an airport air travel because multiple cards. We saw Solutio Dissolution, which mentioned uh, creating gas, solid to gas. In the Five of Swords, there was the boiling of the water, creating gas. Is it Jeliel? One of the angels? I feel like another one of the angels. Maybe it was that Four of Cups. That also mentioned it was like higher. Yeah, in the Four of Cups. Or was that the same one? There was a card that mentioned things falling from on high, materializing in the physical world. I think Jeliel mentioned materialization. Even with like the shifts and the changes and the moves. Airport came out. Bottom of the deck is hotel. Sweet retreat, heartwarming hospitality. I was literally just talking about this with my mom. I was like, I feel like there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour like hotels or rooms that like if you have a long-ish layover or like an overnight layover that you stay in and not have to pay like overnight prices or like pay for a whole night just to stay in a place for like an hour or a few hours, right? If you got a 6 hour layover and you want to chill for a few hours, I feel like there should be options. Anyway, cool. I don't know what this was. It was what it was, and it ain't gonna be what it was. What it was, and it isn't what it wasn't. Right? Maybe I should be welcome to. I don't even know how I would. Whatever. TIS Tarot. Welcome to TIS Tarot, where we tell it like a TI is. I don't know. Anyway, cool. I'll catch you later. Bye. Maybe. I'm sure I will. Right?